back to Challenge the Call with Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
I'm Avery. How are you guys?
All right, so finally back together. Avery is nice and healthy again, I assume. How you doing, Avery?
Feeling good. I was felt like crap yesterday. Felt like how Chicago played. Let's just say that.
That's for sure. Well, to get started with today, we're going to talk about last night's Thursday night game with the Browns versus the Steelers. Our boy Mitch Trubisky, former Bear, seems like he's doing a stellar job there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Mitch, he looked good for the first half. And I feel like that was always like the situation in Chicago, right? He always looked good in the first half, and then everything came back down to earth. I like Mitch. I have a soft spot in my heart. I know we've talked about it in this show before, but he looked good, and then he didn't. I feel like he's just not a winner. I hate to say that, but what do you think? Some guys have that drive.
To some degree, I do think he trailed off a little in the second half. He wasn't doing as great. But also, there were a couple of pretty good throws he made in the second half that receivers just dropped. I think a part of his issue, I don't know if he necessarily has everything to, get to a Super Bowl, win it, whatever. But I think a part of the issue is also just some of the guys around him. Because I saw some dropped balls. I saw some misassignments from the line. So I think there were a couple other issues he was dealing with that second half too. But I think it is definitely more of a team standpoint than just his fault,
See, and I agree to a certain extent. But at the same time, I've been following Mitch all year. And I hear like out of the locker room that the receivers are in distress because he hasn't been able to get them the ball the first two games. And like they haven't opened up the playbook. And that's on the offensive coordinator. That's not on Mitch. But at the same time, I could see some of those error throws. And I don't know if you watch Deontay Johnson especially get frustrated. And you can see it on his face on national television. And it's just like, how long do the Steelers stick with Mitch? Because they have a bye week next week. And they have Kenny Pickett waiting in the wings. And I would love them to stick with Mitch all year. But what are your thoughts?
For sure. I would love him to stick with Mitch. Hopefully he does good. I did hear their first couple games weren't great. I heard this was probably the best game they've played so far. At least that first half started out the strongest they've ever started, but I don't know. Like it does kind of seem like Mitch has grown a little bit, but I don't know if it's as much growth as he will potentially reach. I don't know if he's reached his ceiling yet or not. One thing I will say, I know the announcers talked about a lot was how much they could tell Mitch enjoyed rolling out of the pocket, going on those boots, those nakeds, whatever. And I remember that was one thing we always talked about with Nagy is, yeah, Mitch is a mobile guy. And what did Nagy do? Never move him.
Try to keep him in the pocket. That's what Nagy always did. No, I agree. I just hope Mike Tomlin knows what he does. He's been around for 16 years. He knows what he's doing. And I know they got a young rookie quarterback in the wings, but at least give Mitch this year. Let him audition for another starting job next year. Kind of similar to Jacoby Brissett on the other side of the game. The Browns, like Jacoby Brissett, he's bounced around. He's, that journeyman quarterback. We talk about it all the time, who's going to be the next Josh McCown, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Well, that's Jacoby. And he performed great. What are your thoughts on the Browns?
I love how you could tell that he was in charge of that team, like he's not sitting. He knows he's a replacement. He knows he's just filling in while Deshaun serves a suspension, that he's not the guy. But by all means, to himself right now, like he is acting like he is the guy. And that's for these first, 6 weeks, 11, whatever it is, like he is the guy. And I love that he is acting it out. He's playing the part to the fullest and not just being like, oh, whatever, I'm a backup. I'm not like he's playing for a spot somewhere, whether it's for the Browns, which is doubtful with Deshaun coming in. Like he's definitely making a case for him being a starting quarterback somewhere in this league.
Hey man, I agree 100%. Jacoby Brissett, to me, he came into a really crappy situation, right? Because all these fans, they either love Baker or they're excited for Deshaun. And he's sitting there and he's like, nobody likes me though, you know? And so he's sitting there like, okay, what's going to happen in the future, you know? And the cool thing with it is you heard the crowd last night, especially on his QB sneaks. They were chanting Jacoby, Jacoby. So what happens? Jacoby leaves the Browns to a 8-2, 8-3 record before Deshaun Watson comes back because that team's fully capable. Do they go with the hot hand and Jacoby Brissett, or do they go with Deshaun Watson?
That's a good question on the Browns' part. I think more than likely they're going to go with Deshaun Watson. I think they want him to be the franchise guy. They want him to be the big guy. No matter what Jacoby does for this season, I feel like they're going to have a little bit of a bias toward, hey, we got to play Deshaun. Like, there's a reason we got Deshaun. He's our guy. But I definitely think there's good things coming for Jacoby Brissett. And speaking of some of his quarterback sneaks, there's one he almost just completely broke free for a touchdown. I mean, quarterback sneak is what? You're trying to get a yard or two? He got almost 5 yards just following down that line, being caved in, and almost broke free. Like, he's doing phenomenal. So there are good things coming for him, whether it's with the Browns or he gets picked up on another team that's going to need a quarterback, I'm sure.
Definitely, man. And, I just have a couple more things to say about the game, and then we can move on. Nick Chubb looked amazing out there last night. Like he always does. He's Nick Chubb. I mean, let's be honest. He definitely outperformed Najee Harris, and I know I was playing a guy that has Kareem Hunt, and on that goal line stand, I was so happy that they brought in Nick Chubb on 4th and goal because I was like, oh my gosh.
I was just going to talk about that. I thought it was hilarious just how Kareem Hunt 3 times tried to drive into that end zone. All 3 times just getting stood up, especially that 3rd down drive. He quite literally got stood up and bent backwards out of that goal. And the minute they throw Chubb in right after, he's like, I'm getting this ball in here. And that I love to see that as a running back. I've always been that way. I want to see a good hit. I want to see a good drive through a defensive player. I enjoy seeing when guys can make guys miss real big, when you have shifty guys that cut it back and spin. But I've also seen real big losses on that. I've seen that be real detrimental at times when they try it and it is not executed well and they can't do that. And so to some degree, I like giving a little jump cut, trying to getting to the side, moving out of the way a little bit. But more often than not, I really just want my running backs. I have my running backs coach, by the way. I want my running backs truck sticking people. I want to see shoulder down, drive through, give a stiff arm. I want to see some contact. I want to see some physicality, and I want you to get through the defender.
I like it. Yeah. And that's Nick Chubb right there. And a T. That's Nick Chubb. But moving on, man. Bengals, Cowboys.
I had to talk about this game just because I had a lot higher expectation for the Bengals, honestly. Like, Super Bowl competitors last year, big season. Cowboys, like, first of all, weren't great last year. Second of all, they're down a quarterback again. I think they're down a couple other positions. And I was just like, to me, this game's a no-brainer. Bengals should take it. But that wasn't the case. Cowboys won it 20-17 with backups against the defending Super Bowl competitors, not champions, but runners up. Like, what happened there?
Yeah. I have a friend that's a Cowboys fan, and there's a lot of rumors that Cooper Rush could be what Dak Prescott was to Tony Romo. And that just blows my mind because they've spent all this money on Dak and they've done this and they've had all the talent around Dak. And a guy, Cooper Rush, comes in and he's like, oh, I'm the starting quarterback now. Like, okay, you know?
Definitely. I was surprised when not I'm not discrediting Cooper Rush by any means when I say, "Oh, a backup came in and they still won." Like, what is this madness? Like, no, Rush looked phenomenal. He looked like he could be a true starting NFL quarterback. So, yeah, I wonder if there is a little sweat on Dak's back there with, "Oh, hey, like Cooper Rush came in, took my spot, won the game. I haven't been necessarily doing great the past couple seasons. You know, we've been injury and like mediocre record, but now here's this guy coming in looking like good shit. So he might be a little worried there, but
Now, the Bengals, on the other hand, you know, there's not much to talk about the Cowboys, but oh my gosh, defending AFC championship. Like, they were the AFC championship champions last year. What is going on in Cincinnati?
yeah, yeah, I don't know what their issues are. It didn't look like it. They didn't look at all like they looked last year. They look like they completely reverted back to their season just before their 2020 season when the line wasn't blocking. Burrow was just getting sacked. He was, things were hectic just all over the offense. That's what I saw again whenever I watched this Sunday.
I want to name off their next 5 games and tell me what you think of the Bengals' next 5 games. They play the Jets, so I think that's going to be a win, right?
Win, yeah.
I think they'll get their first win. But then the Dolphins, which that's another game we should talk about.
We'll talk about the upcoming one.
Bengals, Ravens.
They lose.
Saints, Bengals in New Orleans.
In New Orleans, if they haven't fixed their shit yet, Bengals lose.
And then the Bengals, Browns.
Where?
In Cleveland.
In Cleveland. That one's a real tough one to think about. I'm leaning toward the Browns just because, like I said, what I saw from the Bengals on Sunday, I don't know. They don't look like an AFC championship team at all. They've completely deteriorated, and maybe they'll have everything put back together. Maybe they'll fix themselves. They're just having a rough start. Who knows? Maybe in the next 2 games, we see them make adjustments, get their feet under them, and maybe they come out and give the Ravens a surprise. But I don't know. It's just hard for me to believe right now.
The way you predicted that, they went 1-6 or 2-5. That's nuts. Defending AFC champions. 1-6? Really? And
yeah.
It's all because of
the Rams
line. It's their offensive line, man.
Definitely. The offensive line, like I said, it looks like they were 2 years ago when their offensive line just straight up wasn't blocking. Joe Burrow is fighting for his life every day when he takes the field. And even last year when they did get the AFC championship, even then, Joe Burrow was fighting for his life. Like, his line was maybe better, but not great. He still had to move around, run around, and make some magic happen to get them where they did.
I agree, yeah. And I think a lot of it goes back to the coaching also. Zach Taylor, last year, they said, we don't care. If we don't have an offensive line, we're going to get the ball out quick, and we're going to let our receivers do what they can do. This year, it's more play action, and it's a lot more, okay, Yamo, wait, and we're going to see if we can open the top off the defense. And sometimes that doesn't work, especially with time. Like, especially when you got linemen that can't hold the block more than 2 seconds. Like, Joe Burrow is going to end up on the ground. I saw this thing. He's on pace for 111 sacks on the year, which would shatter the NFL record. It would shatter. The NFL record is 68 in 1 year. It would shatter it by almost 40. Joe Burrow is going to get hurt. Joe Burrow is not going to be in the NFL in 3 years if he stays under that offensive line.
Definitely. And even when you fill in an offensive line, even when you get a new one coming in that's going to be better, you have to wonder at what point does Burrow become too traumatized to like trust that line, like even when you get a new line in, he sees a blitz coming, he doesn't believe that it's going to get picked up. It might get picked up just fine, like everything might be good. I think he'll be scared to stand in a good pocket. I think he'll be scared anytime he predicts or sees a blitz coming, he doesn't believe it'll be picked up. I think this is going to be more detrimental than just this year, this line. I think he will have some mental trauma and will have a hard time trusting like in the future as this goes on.
It's the Andrew Luck factor. That's
Yes.
exactly what happened to Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck. And why do you think he retired so early? He had such a promising career. We're just seeing it 5 years later in Joe Burrow. Different team, same situation. So
definitely. But let's move on to our main segment now, Bear Central. So first, we're going to recap that good old rivalry game that ended just about as we could have expected. Avery, what did you think of Bears v. Packers?
I have no words. It's same old Bears. One thing with it, right, is 27-10, but at the end of the first quarter, we went down the field and we scored and we looked competent. For once in our life, our offense looked like it was firing on high cylinders. I loved it. Defense was overpowered by Aaron Jones. The one good thing I can say is Aaron Rodgers didn't beat us this week. Aaron Jones did. Still has to be a freaking Aaron on the Green Bay Packers. But hey, I'd take Aaron Jones over Aaron Rodgers. Go ahead. What do you think?
Definitely Aaron Jones. I damn glad that Rodgers didn't necessarily beat us, although Rodgers did. Like, if you want to get real into it, like, it's football. Rodgers is on a team. It's like when they talk about quarterbacks going against each other. Quarterbacks don't go against each other. Quarterbacks go against the other quarterback's defense. Completely different guys. They're never on the field at the same time. But that's just the mentality people have with this, with, team versus team kind of mentality. So a Packers loss is a Packers loss. I don't care how it's done. Or a Bears loss is a Bears loss to the Packers. I don't care how it's done, running, passing, whatever. Like, that's football. I could call my defensive coverages to completely take away the pass and just give up the run game all day. That's still not good football on my part, Like, we still lost. It's still an L in our books. But the Bears did have one good drive, like opening up that game, like when we went down and we scored. We had the lead. We led that game after the first couple of series. We were actually up 7-3, and I thought that was fantastic. I was pretty sure we weren't going to maintain it. I'm sure we were going to get down at some point. I was hoping to see more drives like that throughout the game, and I think that's what worries me. Is I think any team in the NFL can put together a good solid drive at least once. I think just about any team is going to be capable of doing that. So as much as I loved seeing it, I'm more disappointed in the fact that it was the only time I saw it.
So going on, right? Because we actually had two good drives in that game. When Justin Fields, which this I feel like it was the most idiotic play calling ever. Quarterback sneak, 4th and goal on the 1-yard line. Luke Getsy, what are you doing? Like, if you want a QB sneak, line them up under center, put our fullback Basmus and slam Justin Fields through the goal line. Like, I don't know why you're lining up in shotgun. It gave me remnants of Matt Nagy, to be honest. I thought Matt
And
Nagy was out there coaching.
and you just said it right there. They had 2 good drives. In my book, if I'm going to call it a good drive, Justin Fields is going to be under center. Like, the one thing I'm going to take away from that drive, and granted, yes, I think most people believe it was a bad play call. I think even Packers fans can acknowledge that that ball looked like it was across the plane of the line, like it should have been a touchdown. If it were called a touchdown, it never would have been reversed. It would have stayed a touchdown. Poor judgment call there. But
at the end of the
that still, if it were a good drive, if I were going to call that a good drive ends in points. It ends with the correct play calls. And so if he was under center and there were points, in my book, I'm allowed to call that a good drive now. But if that doesn't happen, I can't call it a good drive, because good drives don't end on 4th down without points to show for it.
I agree. And at the end of the day, like, it would have put us 27-17. And we still wouldn't have won that game. It would have made it look a little more representable, but I don't care about representable. Like, I just want to beat the Green Bay Packers. And I think that's the frustrating, like, thing in every Bears fan's heart, is like, we have not beat the Green Bay Packers since 2018. So I got a question for you, right? Justin Fields, I'll give him the 49ers game because it was, in a monsoon. And but 7 for 11 and 77 yards and an interception and 1 rushing touchdown. But then you go and you see Mitch Trubisky last night. 245 yards, 2 TDs and a 0, and 17 for 24. Who's the real quarterback?
That is a good question, and it's hard to say. I still have high hopes for Justin Fields. I feel like we still have not seen him at his ceiling for sure. Mitch, kind of like you were saying, like same old Mitch, like good start, not a great end, all that stuff. He's been in the league now for a few years at least.
6 years.
So a couple times. 5, whatever. He's been around for a little while. And so you have to wonder with Mitch, like, okay, how much better can a 6th, 7th year quarterback like improve when he's been here 5, 6 years? Whereas with Fields, he came in last year and he got absolutely thrown to the dogs last year too. Like, Andy Dalton got hurt. Hey, get your ass in there. Like, made mistakes that you're going to expect of any college quarterback coming into the NFL. He didn't take his year to sit and learn under somebody. He didn't take his year to just observe and absorb. He got thrown in, had a thing on the fly with Matt Nagy as a coach, and this is only his 2nd season, and we are 2 games in.
Yeah.
So I think he still has a lot of room to grow. I think he's got a high ceiling that he is much more than capable of reaching. I think it's just so early right now that he's still working on it. He's still getting himself better and improving at his game mentally, physically, just all around. I think he just needs time to progress.
I agree. I think that game and the way Justin Fields has been utilized this year falls on Luke Getsy, our offensive coordinator. He was the quarterback coach for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. He's supposed to bring in this spectacular offense, and he's supposed to help our receivers mesh, which, to be honest, that's a bright spot for me. Is our receiving core looks decent when they get the ball. St. Brown, oh my goodness. Like, he's a pleasant surprise. I remember we were talking that he was going to be 4th or 5th on our depth chart. Scored a touchdown. He's looking good. I haven't seen Velus Jones hop on the field yet. He's still dealing with injuries and stuff. He was a healthy scratch yesterday, so that makes me nervous. But yeah, and then Darnell Mooney though, I don't know. Like I like Mooney, and he has not produced this year at all. I don't know if Justin Fields is just not getting him the ball, or the play calling, or what it is, or if it's Mooney. But what is going on with Mooney?
For real. And you want to talk about production, like Cole Kmet. Did he even have a single target, let alone I know he didn't have any catches, but did he even have a single target? Like, in the past 2 games? Has this man played? Does Cole Kmet exist? Is he a Bear? Because I don't know. I haven't seen him.
I hear Ryan Griffin's name, our backup tight end, more than Cole Kmet. It's crazy. And then same with St. Brown. I hear St. Brown's name pop up all the time, or Dante Pettis over Darnell Mooney or Velus Jones. It's like, what is going on? I mean,
to some of the degree with your wide receivers, yeah, you can have your ex wide receiver getting 2 guys on him, 3 guys constantly. Like, he can get more pressure. You can always have those issues, and it frees up those second, third string guys. It frees up those Y's and Z's to, catch some more passes because they're taking heat off of them. But even then, like, your ex receiver still should have catches. Like, did Darnell Mooney have a catch?
1 catch, 6 yards.
Yeah,
I
so
know that because he was my fantasy starting wide receiver.
Nice. I had Cole Kmet, so that got me a big dud. But no, yeah, so with receivers, you have a little bit of an excuse with like yeah, maybe St. Brown is getting more targets because Mooney's being double covered and stuff, but still, Mooney should have at least five receptions throughout a game. Cole Kmet should have at least a few, if any.
We're not throwing the ball enough to have a few. And don't
No.
get me wrong, I'm okay with, like, if they need to keep David Montgomery going because, oh my God, he's having a great year. That
was one mistake too I thought they made during that game, the Packers game, was for some reason we went away from our run. We started trying to get some deeper shots. We started trying to throw the ball around. Like, hey, the run was working. Work with it.
Up passing game at a later date,
For sure. And I think they just tried to do that too soon. I think they tried to jump right into, we've ran a little bit on them, let's start throwing it. But they didn't consistently and concisely go back to that run to keep them on their toes. They immediately went from, hey, the run game is there, let's start throwing it, to like, nah, forget about the run game, it's there, let's keep throwing it. But you have to remind defenses, hey, you still have to watch our run, because if you slip up, if you start getting a little too pass happy, we're going to open up a big run on you.
Yeah, no kidding, man. And it wasn't just David Montgomery. Khalil Herbert had a couple good runs in there too. I like our 2-headed monster. Like, that is one thing I am proud of, being a Bears fan, is our defense. Usually. Last night was, I don't know. Or not last night, but last game was but David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert, I can't be more happy than those two.
Definitely. I love our running back situation. If there's one thing outside of the defense, if there's one thing offensively that I have to be happy about, it's definitely going to be our running back situation. Our run game's pretty good. I love our backs. I think we got talent there. I think they can really help us out. And speaking of them helping us out, what are your thoughts on next week? We have coming up the Texans.
I think we beat the Texans, but I think it'll be pretty dang close, and that's why the odds are what they are. If anybody knew, they're -2.5.
Bears are favored. Bears are favored by 2.5. Yes, yeah. You have to specify which team.
I like it. I don't know. You started watching the Bears a little later in life, but I grew up a Bears fan from when I was 5 until present day, and it's a Lovie Smith reunion, and I'm very excited to see Lovie Smith back in Chicago. I guess it's in Houston, isn't it? But I'm excited to see Lovie Smith play the Bears again, because talk about someone that has soft spot in my heart. Lovie Smith, he got us to a Super Bowl in 2006, and I know that's a long time ago for a lot of people. But I'm just excited to see Lovie again.
I remember you talking about how wasn't he almost back with the Bears? Wasn't he almost our D coordinator this year?
Yeah, him and Eberflus have a really good relationship. And so I would have been pretty happy if Lovey was back as our defensive coordinator because Lovey's a heck of a coach. I mean, people think he wasn't a great coach because he went to college ranks and he didn't work out in the college ranks. Just like, Nick Saban didn't work out in Miami and the Dolphins and Urban Meyer and Jaguars. It works reverse roles. He's more of an NFL guy.
For
And
sure.
there's a reason he's a Houston Texans head coach.
Yeah, there's a huge distinction between like I am an NFL college coach and I am an NFL coach and I am a college coach. Like those are two completely separate worlds almost. Like yeah, it's football, you're coaching football, maybe schematically you can do some similar thing, but just the different things you have to deal with. In the NFL, you're dealing with salary caps, like players that you want to bring to your team. You have more control. In college, you're dealing with let's recruit them, let's make sure their academics are straight. Like they're just completely different environments and different levels of football. Like that difference is huge. Some people can be super successful at one, and then the other just it might not translate the same because success in those two environments comes about a different way.
And, especially him at Illinois, it was hard because they're not even the best school. Yeah, they're in the Big Ten, but Northwestern, Northern Illinois, and then you got Iowa on one side, you got Indiana on the other, you got Missouri at the bottom, and then all the players from like big schools in Chicago are getting recruited by Alabama, Michigan. It's just like he couldn't even win the recruiting pipeline in his own state. Illinois is a
Definitely.
hard state. And I think that's why he's like, enough's enough. I'm done with college. I'm coming back to the NFL. And in 2 years of him coming back, he's the Houston Texans head coach. And that just has to show you something. He's a good coach. And I'm talking up the Texans. I think we will beat the Texans. I'm nervous because the Texans have played feisty this year. Like they've been in 2 games and they tied with the Colts, and I know they lost last week, but it was pretty close. So I'm nervous.
Who'd they play?
I'm pulling it up right now. Brief intermission.
All right. No, yeah, I think the Bears will win. I don't know if that's more hope talking, as I really, really hope the Bears will win, because if we don't win this game, I don't know if I have high hopes for us winning another game at all this season. Like if we can't pull this one out, I'm gonna be worried.
Yeah, man. They played Denver last week and they almost beat Denver. And
That's right.
Like, there's a lot of high expectations in Denver, and then Houston comes out and they're like, "No, we're gonna spoil the day," and that's what I'm nervous about Chicago this week. There's not high expectations, but
definitely, I'm worried about it. It definitely gives me a little stress, especially with our performance against the Packers. I don't have the highest hopes, but I mean, this is what we expected from our season, wasn't it? I guess the only thing I can hope to look forward to is just growth. I just hope that we come out, make a few good drives, have some good series, and maybe even in our bad ones, maybe not look so bad in them.
I agree. So who are you taking? It's -2.5.
I'll take the Bears money line. I don't want. Well, nah. Give them the 2.5. Give them the 2.5. It's such a little spread. Like I'm willing to take that slight risk. It's whatever, but I'll take the Bears by 2.5. I think they can pull it off. I don't know if that's hopeful of me, but that's what I'm going with. How about you?
I'm gonna take Bears money line. Yeah, I mean, if we win 17-16, a win's a win, right?
For sure.
I'm okay with that. So I'll take the Bears money line. I think we can beat the Houston. I feel like it's going to be harder than anybody thinks. But we'll see. But there's a couple other notable games that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Vikings,
So I want to talk Vikings Lions mostly because it's the NFC North. Like this is our conference. Like let's talk about them. Also, not to mention the Lions. They've been doing pretty good. They've been scoring heftily on people. They're 1-1, just like everyone else in the NFC North was, but they've been scoring.
They're frisky. They're frisky. That's what I like to call them. That's what I wish the Bears were. You know, I wish. I like Dan Campbell, Dan the Man, as a head coach. Their head coach is incredible. He's finally got those guys up and running. Um, the Vikings, they looked sharp the first week, and then against Green Bay, and then they got wrecked by Philly. So, what do you think about that?
This I just thought about it, and this is going to be a really awkward situation if the Lions come out and beat the Vikings, because you're going to have the Well, let's go from the bottom. Bears are going to beat, or Bears lost to the Packers. Packers lost to the Vikings. Vikings lose to the Lions. If we can come out and beat the Lions, we're gonna have ourselves a nice little 4-way. Like who do we got? What's going on here? But I will say, with the way they've been playing, both of those teams have been playing, Vikings and Lions. They've been putting up some points. Vikings not so much last week, but Lions consistently. And like you were saying, that's how you wish the Bears were. I could handle losing. Like I could handle having a 4-12 season or whatever if it were going to be losing while scoring 30 plus points. If we were losing while scoring 30 plus points, I'm okay. When we come out and we score 10, I'd like that 10 should be our score in a half or in a quarter. It should not be the end of the game. So if we were still putting up like significant points, I would feel a lot more confident and a much better about our chances to progress quickly. I still think we need to progress, and we will progress. I just think that it's going to take more time, seeing as we have a hard time getting points on the board.
I agree. It's going to be real interesting if the Lions do win, and that pushes them to 2-1, and we win against Houston, and we'll be 2-1, and then the Vikings lose. That would put them at 1-2, and Green Bay loses because they play Tampa Bay. That's a big game. They play Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and they come out and they lose to Tampa Bay, and then the Lions and the Bears are 2-1 in the division. That'd be so crazy to me. It'd be so weird.
That would be an interesting one. But the Vikings are favored by 5.5. What do you think's happening here? What's your call for this game?
I'm taking Lions plus 5.5. I'm going the opposite way. I think the Lions will keep it a game. I don't think they win because, well, it is in Detroit. I'm still sticking with my 5.5. Lions plus 5.5. So I don't know if they'll win, but they're definitely going to make this a game. And Jared Goff's been looking sharp. So what do you think?
I'm also going to take Lions plus 5.5. I do think they have a good shot at coming out and winning. I still don't think that super highly of the Vikings. When everybody was 1-1, the Lions loss was a real close loss, and I think the final score was still like 35-33 or some shit like that. It was something super close, really high points, high scoring. When the Vikings lost, they scored like 7, I think, or at least And so, just thinking score wise in my head, I think the Lions do win it. I like having that little 5.5 cover just in case, like it comes up to the wire. Maybe they have another close loss, like to the who did they lose to? I don't even remember. But
Minnesota or
no, the Lions.
oh, Philadelphia.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
No, yeah, they only lost by a couple so I like the 5.5 cover on it just to keep things safe when I'm betting on a underdog like that. But I think the Lions win this game. I really do. I think they can come out and they can pull it off.
Definitely. Moving on to the other game, and I like this game. I'm glad that you put this on. Bills Dolphins.
Yeah, so the Bills are favored by 5.5, which seems a little low. Like if you think about what they just did to the Titans and what they did all last season, like first couple games this season, like you're thinking Bills 5.5, like that's all against Miami. But also, when you're looking at what Miami's done the past couple of games, you're thinking, well, maybe that's valid. Maybe that's a justifiable score.
Man, so Miami, are they the Cincinnati of last year?
Ooh. I think they're starting off a lot hotter than Cincinnati started off. Cincinnati last year, I feel like still had a real mediocre start, and I don't know if that's just because people weren't paying them any attention yet. But even in saying that, there's the key difference is people are on Miami already.
Yeah.
Like Miami, what they've done in the first 2 games is unreal, and so they've already grasped the world's attention. Like, hey, we're here to play. Check out what we can do, and we're watching. We're talking about them right now versus the Bills. Like
Yeah.
that's a testament to like what they've done in just 2 games that they've had so far.
Mike McDaniel, people thought he was not qualified enough to be an NFL coach, being the only offensive coordinator for 1 year under Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. Man, he's proven people wrong.
Yeah.
We joked about it in the offseason, right? That the Bears were just getting a whole bunch of burners and creating an Olympic sprint team. No, that's literally what they did in Miami. That's literally, and it's working. They send either Tyreek out on a go route, Waddle on a post, and then you got Gesicki running a drag. And someone's always open. It spreads the defense.
Was it our fantasy league that somebody in our league, I think, had Waddle and Tyreek, which you would not expect to take 2 receivers on the same team because, you're just defeating yourself points-wise there. But
No.
did it pay off or did it? Both of them had 40-plus points in fantasy. And then
Tua throws 6 touchdowns. When people were saying, is Tua the guy? Because Tua can't throw deep. When we are part of that. We are part of that.
Yes.
We mentioned that. And I'm a Tua believer right now. Yeah, it looks kind of funky because he's a left-handed quarterback coming off. But, oh, my God. Tua looks great. Dolphins are fun to watch.
They are. And I'm super excited to see this game. I think this is going to be a game to be highlighted for the season. This will be a good game. That being said, I don't know when this one actually is. It might be. But what are you taking? Who do you think? Do the Dolphins pull it off? Do you think they can cover? Do the Bills have it locked? What are your thoughts?
So I'm not a superstitious guy, right? But there's this stat that the Dolphins have a 21-game win streak on quarterbacks that have a O in their last name. I don't know if you've seen this stat. It's crazy. And if you really look at it, and then Lamar Jackson, O in the last name last week. But yeah, no, it's a legit 21-game win streak. And I'm not superstitious, but Josh Allen doesn't have an O in his last name. So I'm taking the Bills minus 5.5 because I think as fun as Miami is to watch, this isn't their game yet.
Yeah, I'm also going to take the Bills minus 5.5. The Dolphins are doing great. They're doing phenomenal. Like, I think they'll be a real good team, a team to compete with this season. But I mean, it's the Bills. And you can talk about teams changing from year to year as much as you want. I mean, look at the Bengals, look at the Rams, but when you look at the Bills, like, look at their first two games and you know that's not the case. Like, the Bills are still, I think, the best team in the NFL right now. I think they pull this off. I think they pull it off by 5.5. I Bills all the way.
I agree. Yeah, but there's a game that I wanted to talk about, right? The Broncos versus 49ers. And I want to talk about this game for two reasons, and two reasons alone. Russell Wilson's played like crap all year. And Jimmy G is back. Out of nowhere, Jimmy G is back. I'm a big believer in Jimmy G, and you could see the positive vibes and like the energetic. Like, I was watching that 49ers game against Seattle, and Trey Lance got hurt, and then the next play, the whole stadium erupted in chants for Jimmy G. He's their quarterback. I don't know why they think like Trey Lance was their guy. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Even if they thought Trey Lance was their guy, I remember them trying to get rid of Jimmy G or try to get offers for Jimmy G, and that blows my mind. I'm like, you're trying to get rid of your questionably best quarterback option, your like most comparable quarterback option. And like, what would they have done without him? Like, if that had gone through, if they were successful in getting him somewhere else, like trading him off, whatever, where would they be right now? Absolutely fucked.
Brock Purdy would have been the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. That would have been something.
Well, maybe Purdy would have been all right. I wouldn't say they were fucked with it. I like Purdy. I don't know if he necessarily has what it takes quite yet to that'd be a real Justin Fields situation. Like, hey, get in here. But I do like Purdy. So
yeah,
I won't say they're too fucked.
But no, man, I'm big on this because the 49ers treated Jimmy G unfair through the whole offseason. They wouldn't even let the guy practice with the team. He had to practice on a practice field on the other side. And if someone did that to me and I was the NFL starter and I had Jimmy G's talent, I'd be like, screw you guys. Trey Lance is hurt. Put the rookie in, you know?
Yeah.
At that point, it's just like they try to trade him and nobody took him because, yeah, Jimmy G gets paid a significant amount of money. But, I know people have an issue because he's not a top 10 quarterback. Jimmy G isn't. But he's a top 15, top 20. Like, he's better than 12 to 15 guys in the league any given day.
Definitely. And that's all you can ask for sometimes in this league. Like, everybody wants to find their Tom Brady, their Aaron Rodgers, their Peyton Manning. But, sometimes you're not going to find that. Sometimes you're just going to find, I'm trying to think of a good mediocre shot, like a Jimmy G type guy. Sometimes you're going to get consistent. You're going to get good, but maybe not great. And, that's what you got to roll with. That's who you got to build your team around. And those guys can still get it done. Those guys can still get it done just fine. It might take a little bit of extra work in the other positions. It might take a little bit extra work in the scheming of the offense, the defense, whatever it is, game planning. But those guys are perfectly fine. And they're a lot better than having the polar opposite when you're going to get into the complete duds of quarterbacks. Like, are you really telling me you're going to turn away Jimmy G, a veteran, like top 20 quarterback, top half quarterback, in turn of having Brock Purdy, who I do love by all means, but like he's not going to be what Jimmy G is going to be. I mean, there's a reason that Jimmy G's in now compared to Brock Purdy.
I agree. And that's the big thing, man. Like, people forget that Jimmy G led the 49ers to a Super Bowl 2 years ago. Yeah, they didn't beat the Chiefs in 2019, but they came pretty damn close. They came pretty damn close to beating Kansas City. And people forget about that. And, I find it funny because the Broncos were actually favorites for this game until Trey Lance got hurt. And then
Really?
now Jimmy G's, now the 49ers are favorites. I think Jimmy G
But
just complements the team better.
even in you saying that, like, I don't know what the spread was before, but 49ers are favorites now, but by 1.5. Like, they're still only favored 1.5. Like, that's basically like saying, hey, we're gonna money line this spread. Like, there is no spread. Like, they're gonna win. That's all that's saying.
And I want to talk about this because I feel like still after 2 games and the Broncos looking like crap, both games, that Vegas still thinks the Broncos are better than expected. I don't. One, their coaching has been atrocious. No time management. No Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator for Green Bay last year, has been terrible. Their defense has regressed without Vic Fangio there as their head coach. And they paid $245 million for Russell Wilson, and he looks so washed.
I was on the train with the Browns. I was on the bandwagon for, hey, Broncos are going to be good this year, and just from their first game, I forget who they played week 1. I'm trying to look it up. Seattle, yeah, that was week 1. Okay, I thought it was, but even just right off the bat, watching that game, I was like, oh, maybe they're having a slow start. Maybe Russ just isn't doing, maybe he's just like trying to acclimate and everything. But then after week 2, after the way they played the Texans, I'm officially off of that bus. The Broncos are still not good. They're still not going anywhere. They don't make playoffs this year. Maybe they can pull out a winning record. That's questionable in my mind. They've got some issues that they need to address, and I don't think the quarterback is one of them.
Yeah, no, they've regressed a lot, and Russell Wilson has regressed a lot also. And I feel bad for Broncos fans because they just been looking for a quarterback, and well, I don't know if they even got one in Russell Wilson, and it makes us feel like we dodged the bullet. But
definitely.
Well,
one more thing I will say. Yes, they know they need a quarterback, as we did for a long time too, but that's one thing that is hard to see sometimes is, do you need a quarterback, or do you need an offensive coordinator, a head coach? Do you need a different scheming strat? Like, sometimes a quarterback isn't necessarily your specific answer. Sometimes it's just what it feels like, because your offense is lacking and the quarterback is the biggest piece that you see in the offense. Sometimes there are other issues going on that aren't necessarily the quarterback's fault. Like you say, we dodge a bullet with not having Russ. I don't know if we do. I think Russ is still a decent quarterback. I think if he would have been on the Bears, maybe it would have been better than he is right now with the Broncos. But it's hard to say.
Yeah.
As far as who I'm taking here, I take the Niners. I think the Niners are going to pull this off. Especially with Jimmy G back in, and like we were just saying, the Broncos have not been doing anything great for themselves. Niners have it easy.
I like the Niners too, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was the get right game for Denver.
For sure. Which
it could be.
For sure. Which I have mentioned a couple times already that, like, we're 2 games in, don't read into it. Like I said that with the Bears earlier. We're 2 games in, can't read into it too much. Could be the same with the Broncos here.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
So, let's move on from our NFL talk now and get into a little college ball with our segment, Let's Talk Hawks. So up this week, Iowa has Rutgers getting in conference a little bit. Iowa is favored by 7.5, surprisingly enough. I think it's a bit generous, but I also don't know how Rutgers is supposed to be. Haven't watched any of their non-con games. So, Avery, what do you think?
All right. I don't know, man. Iowa's so hard to predict. I know they kind of screwed me over last week with betting. But honestly, I think Iowa will be all right. I think we'll win this game. I don't know if we're gonna. I don't think we'll cover 7.5. It's gonna be a 10-7 game, or it's gonna be a 13-7 game. Rutgers isn't a bad team. I was gonna look up their schedule real quick. What do you think?
It'll really help me once you look up the schedule if you tell me their past couple games. I think Iowa definitely has the potential to win this. I think they have the potential to win most of their games, just about any games. It's just a matter of whether they can actually execute and reach that potential to get it done. Because the defense is phenomenal. I've seen different polls and stuff ranking our defense sixth in the nation. Like we have almost a top 5, definitely a top 10 defense in all of college football. It's just the offense is so atrocious. And it was a little bit better questionably against Nevada. I say questionably because we scored more than 7 points, but at the same time, I remember saying the spread for that game was like 23.5, which we did hit after numerous lightning delays, which was a fun time.
Oh.
But still, we barely even reached that as our total score. So I don't know. The offense is so bad. It's so hard to predict where they're going to be because if they come out firing, they can do good. They can come out and score. They are capable of coming out and scoring. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen.
Right, I agree. So Rutgers' schedule, they played Boston College and they won 22-21. They played Wagner, FCS school, and they won 66-7. And then they played Temple, and that's a non-Power 5 D1 school, and they won 16-14.
Okay, I think Iowa wins this game. I do. I think Iowa's capable. It doesn't sound like Rutgers is putting up huge points outside of that FCS school, which, I mean, we also played an FCS school and we put up 7, and 4 of those were by the defense. But
you gotta compare FCS schools, though. At that point, Wagner is definitely not as good as South Dakota State.
Definitely.
But no, yeah, I think Iowa pulls it off. But like I said, I think it'll be a low scoring game. Petrus needs to come out and actually play football. Oh my God. Petrus, yeah. I saw. This is totally off topic. Did you know Petrus can sing?
I did not.
He's a better singer than he is a quarterback. Let's just say that. But I'll have to send you the video later. But yeah, Petrus can sing. But yeah, I don't have much to say. To be honest, I'm still taking the under on this game.
I was just going to ask you. The over-under is set at 33.5 on this. I know I said last week, if it's an Iowa game, I'm taking the under. And this week I had to question it a little bit. But after hearing some of the Rutgers scores, I'm confident in that. Rutgers isn't scoring huge. I don't think Iowa will necessarily score huge on Rutgers by any means. I think the under is still a safe bet. Even at 33.5, like you said, it'll be a 10-7 game. It'll be a 17-10 game. Like, I think the under still happens here. As far as straight up, I would take Iowa money line. I'm not confident they'll win it by a whole touchdown or by more than a whole touchdown because it's 7.5. But I think they will win it. I think they're very capable of winning it. And I frankly just think they absolutely have to, because if they don't win this game, their season's over. They're done with. If they don't win this, they might as well pack up and
not
wait for
show up
basketball
rested.
season. Yeah.
I agree. And it's hard because we are flying out to New Jersey. That's where Rutgers is. And so we've only been out there once. So it's going to be a different change. Rutgers is still kind of new to the Big Ten. So,
fun story. I was actually really disappointed about that being an away game because I'm currently on a bye week. So it would have been a wonderful time to me to go down to Kinnick Stadium and actually watch a Iowa game live. But sadly, they're going across the country. So now I don't know if that'll happen.
I have a game for you then. I believe Iowa State versus Baylor is in Ames, Iowa this weekend. And I know it's little brother and we're not, we're a Hawkeye where, this is Let's Talk Hawks. This isn't Let's Talk Cyclones. But to be honest, at least they're 3-0. I'm not
for
a
sure.
But when Iowa's not playing them, I cheer for Iowa State. I like
100%. I always have too, and I think we even mentioned it in our very first episode. We talked about, hey, we're Iowa guys, but Iowa State, yeah, because we were talking about the draft and stuff. Like Iowa State, like little brother school. I treat them like a little brother school. Like I have a younger sibling, and yes, I give them a lot of shit. And if it's coming down to it, like I'll fight them on whatever. But if it's, anything outside of our household, my power, whatever, like I'm in root for them. I'm supporting them. Like I do love them. And so Iowa State, I love just as much. Like they're playing number 17 Baylor. I hope they crush them. I hope they do great. It's hard to say because my ideal world, sorry, I'm going on a rant here. My ideal world is a number 1 ranked Iowa and a number 2 ranked Iowa State. So it does get harder to support Iowa State when, Iowa is just so much worse at like this season, especially when State fans make it hard for you to be accepting of Cyclones, which I'll say right now, if you're a State fan out there, I'm supporting you. There's no need to sit here and diss on me. I am supporting you too. Like I get it. You're better. Like we don't need to be assholes about it here.
Maybe we should settle down on the little brother talk because they did beat us this year. So are they the little brother?
They did.
Or are we the little brother this year? I mean, I feel like
if you want to get into historically correct senses, they are by all historic means little brother school.
Right. If they beat Baylor, right? If they beat Baylor and they go 4-0 and they get into the top 25, I will call them the big brother just for this year. Just for this year.
Oh, for the season maybe. I don't know. I would almost picture it like, when you have like a younger sibling that actually ends up becoming like bigger than you or something, like I'm the oldest, why am I the shortest or the smaller or that, like that's how I would picture it. Like they're still younger brother. They're always going to be in my head younger brother. It would take generations for that to actually flip, of them being really good and us just being trash. But as the record stands, like Iowa has won more of that head-to-head matchup. Iowa does do better historically, just in the general like ranked sense. So like we are still big brother. They are just bigger this season.
I agree. Who do you take in that game? It's Iowa State actually favorites.
Yeah, Iowa State favored by 2.5, which is I'm a little surprised. I haven't watched any of their games this year. Even the Iowa game, because I was busy, and I definitely haven't watched Baylor at all either. So I really have no idea. I really don't know how to pick this. If I were to pick it, I would be basing it solely off of like the spread, and Baylor's number 17. I can't even name any other schools that either of these teams have played other than Iowa played Iowa State. But that's the only one. That's the only other game I actually know of for the two. If I had to just, here, tell me some of the other games and stuff.
So Iowa State, of course, they played a FCS school, Southeastern Missouri State, and they demolished them. It was like 49-3, and that's how you're supposed to play FCS school. Iowa State also beat Iowa, and so they're 2-0. They were 2-0 at that point. And that game, we've talked about it last 2 podcasts ago. They didn't look like the better team out there. Their offense looked like the better team, but we definitely had a better defense. But anyways, and then Baylor, they lost a heartbreaking game against BYU at like 1 a.m. So I think like it was around that. But if I had to choose, man, I'm choosing Iowa State. But I don't know. I would probably pick Iowa State +4 because I want that buffer. I would do an alternative odds on that.
Alternative odds. I'll take Iowa State straight up. I think they can do this. I know Baylor's 17 and it's hard to go against, but Baylor did lose to BYU, so they do have a loss. Iowa State doesn't. Iowa State's favored. If I'm just looking super surface level, like, hey, take your pick, and just me being hopeful as a fan of the state of Iowa, I'm going to go Iowa State to win this.
I agree.
All right, guys. So that's all the time we have for you here today. I've got to get going real quick here. Sorry if we were rushing a little bit toward the end, but everybody, please like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Challenge the Call Podcast, and we will see you next time. Bear down!